Now, the protest gained momentum through social media exposure and word of mouth. There wasn't a national body or organization behind it, but in comparison with previous large protests, do you think that this will make any difference to the status quo? Mr. Leopold, let me come to you first.
Yeah, I do. Look, what we're seeing here is a spontaneous reaction to some of the most draconian, mean-spirited immigration policies ever in this country. You know, we saw people detained at airports several weeks ago because they carried passports from Muslim countries. Now we're seeing dreamers, young, undocumented immigrants who have protection under DACA, detained. And apparently there's serious reports that Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents actually doctored legal paperwork to make this young man in Seattle that they arrested, this dreamer, look like he was in a gang. There was arrest of a transgender woman in a courthouse. Again, more disinformation coming out of immigration agents. And I think what we're seeing across the country is a spontaneous reaction to the mistreatment, to the, I would say, argued persecution of immigrants by a president who ran for 15 months on three main promises. One, to build a wall. Two, to deport 11 million undocumented people. And three, to ban Muslims. And this is not, America is much better than this. And that's what I think we're seeing when you see a day without immigrants, a social, spontaneous reaction to this sort of behavior.
Now, Mr. Nee, there have been mixed responses to this day's protest. For instance, on Twitter, there is this message by Tumblr Isn't Facts, which says, "A day without immigrants would be horrible. A day without illegal immigrants would be following the law." Do you think the protest will help change public perception of immigration? Will the public be more sympathetic to the difficulties implied?
I think it's important to take the long view of American immigration history. Since 1965, the United States has had among the most liberal immigration law in the world that provided equal quota for all countries and which overturned the past immigration law that was exclusive of other people from non-Western countries. So I think that needs to be taken into perspective. And the issue is not whether immigration is being banned. It is really because there's strong bipartisan support for legal immigration to the United States. I don't think that's being questioned. What is being questioned is much more focused, the question of illegal immigration or undocumented immigration, and specific questions about temporary bans. So I do think that it's important to take the broader picture and to see this as a period where the United States is rethinking but not abandoning a liberal immigration policy.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Leopold, well,
can I push back against that a little bit?
Of course, please go ahead.
I'd like to push back against that.
Go ahead.
I think that's fundamentally wrong. This is not about looking back to 1965. This is about living in a global economy where we have a president who, in the last major speech on immigration before he was elected in Phoenix, Arizona, after he met with President Peña Nieto of Mexico, offered perhaps the most draconian vision of immigration ever. And in that speech in Phoenix, Arizona in August, he talked about bringing legal immigration to historic lows. This is a president who has surrounded himself by the likes of a man named Stephen Miller, a doctrinaire nativist. He has surrounded himself by Stephen Bannon, who has an affinity for white nationalists like the alt-right white supremacist group. He has appointed an attorney general who made a name for himself as an anti-immigrant doctrinaire in the Senate, probably the most anti-immigrant senator ever, and who now has tremendous control over the immigration administrative courts. This is not about looking back
I'd like to push back on this.
This is about
again.
Hang on, let me finish. Let me finish, Professor, and then I'll let you talk, okay? This is about looking forward. This is about people who need to, this is about a badly outdated immigration system and people who are being locked up today because of Donald Trump's bigotry and racism.
Mr. Nee,
go ahead.
Yes, please go ahead.
I think it's very important to keep the tone of your language calmer, because if you overstate the case, I think there's more damage done by that. It's important to keep in mind that this is a limited rethinking of aspects of American immigration. And the broader picture is that this is a period of greater openness than in the past, and that I don't see the type of closure that you are talking about being discussed. Certainly, there has been a long history of nativism in American immigration policy that has been longer than this period of openness since the 1965 Immigration Act. And I do not think that nativism has ever been eliminated in American response to large volume immigration. It's always there to some extent. But what surprises me is that it's
Victor,
relatively moderate compared to past periods of nativism.
No,
Go ahead,
with
Leopold.
respect, that's
I
just
think
not
you're
correct.
wrong.
I mean, you talk about...
I'm a scholar of
hang on.
immigration.
Go ahead, Mr. Leopold.
I don't doubt your scholarship, and I respect your scholarship, but that doesn't mean you get to make up your own facts. And when you talk about overstating things, maybe we should talk about the president. Maybe we should talk about the president talking about banning Muslims or his aggressive bigotry. And maybe we should talk about being calmer. The previous segment talked about, it was about a president who talks about fake news. And when you want to talk about being calmer about immigration, maybe we should talk to the transgender woman in this country the other night who was arrested in a courthouse, and then immigration agents later on gave a sworn affidavit saying that they arrested her outside. Maybe we should talk about the young dreamer in Seattle who has been arrested, and immigration agents apparently falsified documents to claim he was a member of a gang. This is not about looking back and saying, oh, we need to be more calm. This is about the fundamental, this is about the American Constitution. This is about the fundamental soul of America and who we are going to be.
Mr.
We are in
Nee,
a very
yes.
dangerous situation right now in this country.
Mr. Nee, would you like to come back to that again, or shall we move on to the next topic if we have any time left?
Yes, I would like to come back to
Please,
it.
briefly.
I'm a professor at Cornell University, and I've been on the faculty since 1977. And let me tell you that in my classrooms, we have a very diverse student body. And many of the students come from immigrant background, from a wide array of countries. And our campus is reflecting the immigration since 1965 in the second generation of that immigration in our classrooms. And you point to very specific isolated incidents. The mainstream America has changed. New York City has changed.
These are not isolated
Cornell
incidents,
University,
Professor. They arrested
upstate New York,
680
has
people
changed.
over the weekend.
Do not negate the progress we have made. Do not interrupt me, because you're negating the progress we've made, and that, I think, is not constructive at all.
Well, gentlemen, I believe we can go on and on about this topic. Indeed, a very interesting one. Should we put labels on things? Should we really look at things with nuances? I would love to continue this discussion, but we have to leave it there for today.